Hey, it's your boy. I'm back. And today I'm going to be making a review on the Sony FDR-AX33. So this camcorder was released by Sony in 2015 and its main selling point was that it could do 4K video, as you can see, under $1,000. So that was pretty impressive back then. And you know, there were different competitors for this camera at the time from Canon and Panasonic, and I actually don't know of any other brands. So I decided to buy this camera because the price I believed was decent. It has a few external defects, but its image quality and all that, it's completely fine. I believe I bought this for 375 euros, and that was, it came with the camera, its battery, original. It also came with a larger battery, however it had issues. It's not that it wanted to explode or anything, it's just that it would sometimes work, it would sometimes not, so I kind of fixed it, but still if you touch the battery, the camera shut off, so yeah. And it also came with a Sony shotgun microphone that you can put up on the hot shoe, and was like a zoom gun or whatever it was called, I forget, but it was a decent microphone. Now originally I bought this camera for filmmaking purposes and for YouTube videos. For YouTube it's actually pretty good and its zoom range is really impressive. I'll talk about that later when we go to the specs. But for filmmaking it just didn't have my desired look. So anyways, let's get to the actual specs of this camera. So it has a 1/2.3 inch Exmor R CMOS sensor. It's also back illuminated. Its image processor is Bionz X. The camera weighs 600 grams. Now its lens is the Zeiss Vario Sonar T-Star, and its minimum apertures go from 1.8 to 3.4, and its focal length is from 3.8 to 38 millimeters. Now that's in the context of the camcorder. When it comes to full frame equivalent, you get 30 millimeters to 300 millimeters of effective zoom range. That's pretty good. That's really good. That's a 10 times zoom range optically. You can also use clear image zoom with this camera in 4K up to 15 times your zoom range, and in HD 1080p up to 20 times. And you can also use digital zoom up to 120 times, but that looks like ass, so don't use it. Optical zoom is enough. Its viewfinder has a field of view of 100%, so you can see everything that you can see on the LCD. It's a 3-inch LCD touchscreen, which you would think is good. But the problem is that you have no control buttons on the side of the camera for many of its features, and you have to control almost everything from the screen. And that's a problem because the screen, it really doesn't like to recognize your finger. So when I try to get out of the menu, I click X on the upper left corner and I'm like boom, 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 no, nothing happens, and I'm just raging at some point, and it's really annoying. It's not the best functioning screen, but it gets the job done. It also has a 5.1 surround sound mic. That's what it has. And it's actually a pretty decent onboard microphone. It shoots images at 20.6 megapixels. And its effective megapixels in video is like 8.3 or something like that. So it has a Zeiss lens, as you can see by the big Zeiss logo there. Yeah. And that's actually one of the main things I bought this camera for. I can't believe I'm saying that. I never had anything Zeiss before and all that, but I know that they're high quality. And I was like, oh yeah, blue badge. And actually the lens that I'm currently filming this video on is also a lens from Zeiss. It's the 24mm f1.8 for APS-C, and it's a decent lens. I bought it second hand. I'm not stupid to spend like 800-900 euros on this lens when it's more than 10 years old. But you know, it's a decent lens. It has quite a bit of problems with chromatic aberration, but I accept that. But the main thing I bought this lens for was, first of all, it looks really good. Like, it looks high quality and it's made of metal and all that. It's understated. And the Zeiss logo on the side. Yeah, I'm a Zeiss dick rider. You also have many features such as grid lines, focus peaking, zebras. You can pretty much customize everything on this camera that you can do on any other camera. However, you can't customize everything at the same time. Here's an example. If you want to manually control your iris, also known as your aperture, you cannot control your exposure, your ISO, nor your shutter speed. And that's also one of the big problems that I had with this camera for filmmaking, because I want to control all these things individually, but I can't. So I always left it, I don't know, at the iris for the manual control, because I wanted to have it always as open as possible. But the problem is that it's a really small sensor and the footage gets noisy really quickly if you don't have enough light, which I almost never had enough of. So that was a big problem. But you know, this camera was made for dads to go around and just film their kids in 4K, so you know, stuff like that. Not exactly for professional filmmaking. And I'm not a professional filmmaker, don't get me wrong. I'm just aspiring. It has autofocus and it can recognize faces, but it's contrast based. But hey, if you're zoomed out and you don't have anything right up in front of the lens, then you don't have to worry about focus, because it's such a small sensor. It's like your phone and everything is in focus. So you don't have to fear not being in focus. Now, if you're looking for the cinematic look and you want a shallow depth of field, you can actually achieve it with a camcorder, with a small sensor. The trick is that you need to zoom in with the lens all the way, preferably, because that is how you get the most shallow depth of field. So if you have the space for it, yeah, go ahead and you'll get cinematic footage. I didn't know too much about cameras at the time, so this is the one I bought, and honestly, I think this was the logical purchase for me, because it had all that I really needed. Now, you can record 4K footage on this camera at 25 frames per second, and you can choose 100 megabits per second or 60 megabits per second. Honestly, 60 megabits per second it's good enough for 4K. The file sizes are going to be much lower than at 100 megabits per second, and you don't lose much observable quality from going down. You can also film in HD, 1080p, at 50 megabits per second, and you can choose 50 frames or 25 frames a second. This is for the European model. Now, this camera also has a night shot mode, which is basically night vision for your camera, and it has an IR light that it shines so you can see better in the dark. So when it's completely dark and you're in the woods and you try to film something and you don't see nothing, you can play basically Outlast in real life with this camera. It's actually pretty cool. It's really functional, it's nice. However, it is sort of just a gimmick. It also has a micro HDMI port. So yeah, oh, it's a micro HDMI, blah, blah, blah. It still has it. So you can externally record with this camera, I believe. I haven't tested it, but I assume that is what it's for, or at least to attach a screen to it. You can also plug in external microphones and headphones. It also has a micro USB, like multi-interface port, and you have a built-in USB port for getting footage off the camera. It has one full-size SD card slot, and the recommended SD card size is about 128 gigs from like a class 10 U3. I don't know, just a decently fast SD card for 4K recording. If you have, I think, anything slower than that, then your recording options are limited. And it also has this, it's almost like a focus ring. You can actually modify it to have many different functions, but only one at a time. So you have this manual button, you press it, and it turns the selected function on or off, aka you put it in auto or manual. and if you long press the button, you can select it to control your aperture, your white balance, your exposure, your zoom, your focus, whatever. So it's cool that it has it, but it sucks that you can only configure one thing to it at a time. And it also sucks that you can't control aperture, exposure, and shutter speed separately. That's really annoying. That's really annoying for me. But it might not be annoying for you, so you know.
It's made for long record time shooting. Camcorders typically don't suffer from overheating, unlike mirrorless cameras. And that is why the battery is in a place where it makes it easy to attach larger capacity batteries. With the stock battery, you can record up to 2 hours in 4K 100 megabits per second.
It also has balanced optical steady shot inside, which is its optical stabilization, which it's like a 5-axis stabilization, and it's actually really cool because when you turn the camera on, you can see that its lens is just moving inside. So that's really cool. And it has a stabilization up and down, left and right, and back and forth. In those 3 directions. It unfortunately doesn't have stabilization on the axis of the sensor, but it's more than nothing. It also has digital image stabilization, which crops in a tiny bit. It's really not even observable. However, it does help quite a lot. So I do recommend doing that. Now, Sony has a software called Catalyst Browse, where you can stabilize your footage from their more modern cameras digitally. And you can select how much you want to crop in and how much you want to stabilize, and you can also cut down on rolling shutter. And unfortunately, with this camera, that is not an option. So that's a shame. So what do I say? Do I recommend this camera for anyone, or do I not? Or what's the deal with this Sony AX33? And honestly, if you can find this at the right price and you know what you want, I think this camera it's a really good deal. So for like under 400 euros or dollars, if you can find this camera, or the AX53 or 43, though the 53 I believe is superior to the 43. Let me break this down. So the first small camcorder was this, the AX33. Then I think in 2017 they released the AX53, which is the same camera except a bit smaller sensor with a larger zoom range and just a slightly better camera for I think still $1,000 at the time. So if you can, get the AX53, not the 33. But if this is all you can get, then buy it. The AX43 came after the 53, and it doesn't have the viewfinder, it doesn't have many features that these two cameras have, and I don't think it's a good deal. So you just lose a lot of things, because if you buy one of these cameras, you buy it for all the goofy features it has, and why would you buy the 43 when it's lacking many of the things? And well, the viewfinder, it's really helpful. Like, I filmed a rally competition here in my city with this camera, and it never overheated. Its footage is great, the zoom range is good, and I had to use the viewfinder because the sun was just too strong. You don't have that on the 43, and if you're in that environment, then you're fucked. So I do recommend the AX33 or the AX53, which I don't have. So yeah. After this video, I will be selling this camera so that I could buy a new lens for my ZV-10, the Zeiss 55mm f1.8. That is gonna be it for today, and I hope you enjoyed this video and it was helpful for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Pretty soon, actually. So yeah, bye.